VC, Thijs here, Sound of Minder. Recuperating from a pretty busy weekend. On Saturday, I took my daughter to the Circus that came to town for the weekend. It was pretty fun, entertaining. My favorite part was the Boleadoras. They're basically a percussion group from Argentina. They have these 3 balls of stone covered, lined in leather, and they just drummed them to the floor. And it's a really cool sound effect, especially when you have like a bunch of people doing it all together. It sounds pretty cool. That was my favorite part of the show, probably. And then in the evening, my partner and I went to see Steve Roach. He was playing a show in the Central Presbyterian Church of Denver, which was a very interesting experience, I gotta say. It was basically, he was playing, here's a flyer. He was playing his 40th anniversary of Structures from the Silence, which you can hear in the background now, the record. This is the 40th anniversary edition. This was put on by Age of Reflection. They also put on shows in New York and LA. I think in New York, William Basinski was playing this weekend, and in LA, Alessandro Cortini. And this album was always a little too new agey for me, but I was curious to experience it live, especially in the setting of a church. And it was done in conjunction with a light installation, a light show, which made it very, in the acoustics, it was just very good. And I actually, so the album, as you hear here, is, like I said, is more new agey ambient, which is nice for what it is, but the album being an hour long, the live performance was 2 hours. So we added a lot of different elements in it, which I actually liked a lot. It became, he added a lot of dark ambient elements in it, some percussion, which is pretty much non-existent on the album. So the expansion he did during the performance was very moving and very, it was a very unique, great experience. So like I said, I picked up the record after the show. This is the reissue from this year, the 40th anniversary. I really wish he would actually record one of these live shows, because this was the last time supposedly he's performing this piece live. But yeah, I like the live performance better than the album performance, so a lot better even, because the tension it creates when the darker, the percussive elements especially, and I love percussion in general for the most part, so it just adds a whole different vibe to the piece that's needed, in my opinion. It's not to say that the album itself isn't good. It's just I like. Oh, it comes with a booklet too, actually. An insert, kind of explaining how he went about it. It was originally released on cassette in '84. It's him back then. So yeah, then after the show, he gave everyone a poster that he signed, which was kind of nice of him. That's this one. Yeah, it was a funny story that happened too. is that during the show, my girlfriend recognized someone in the audience, and turns out it was a person that we met in Osaka, Japan, over the summer back in July. And they were at the airport of Osaka when we were there too, and it was him and his partner, I think, and they had these big bags with them that they were trying to check in, like oversized bags. So I asked them back in Osaka. I was just curious what it was, and they had brought bikes with them from the U.S. To bike around Japan, and so we didn't exchange information or anything. But so yeah, it was just a funny turn of events how we would run into him again at this show back in Denver, you know. So that was Saturday. Circus and Steve Roach. Then Sunday. So on Sunday, I had planned to meet up with Steve Carlson once again to go to the Rocky Mountains record show, Rocky Mountain Record Show, which happens in Denver twice a year, once in the spring, once in the fall. It's an all-weekend event. We decided to go on a Sunday. We met up at 10 a.m. And yeah, went inside. And my favorite seller, there's always a few sellers that I especially like the sellers that are just selling from their collection, because you don't know what they could possibly have. And there were a few there that I picked some stuff up from. But my favorite vendor that is always there is Slolo from Albuquerque, New Mexico. And that was when you walk in. So the event took place in what's called the Denver Sports Castle. I'm not sure what it was previously used for, but it's 3 stories. And when you first walk into the venue, Slolo is right there on your left. So that's the first one we went to, and I picked up 3 records there. Yeah, so the first one was Glenn Falez with Steve Gordon and Lane Redmond, 7 Heaven. This is a very percussive record, as Glenn Falez is known to do. This came out in '87. I actually haven't heard this record yet, but I mean, I'm familiar with Glenn Falez's work, and it's pretty spectacular in my book. So let me see any goodies inside. This is on a CMP label. Yeah, excited to check this one out. There we go. So that was the first one I got, and it's always good to bring cash to these shows, because the vendors are willing to make deals too. Slolo being a prime example, especially when you bundle multiple records. So second record I picked up from Slolo was the Black Earth Percussion Group from '74. Another record I wasn't too familiar. I mean, I've known about it, but I've never really heard it, except for a few samples here and there. They basically do percussive work, obviously. They do some pieces by Lou Harrison, Edward Miller, Mario Bertoncini, Peter Garland, John Cage, and William Albright. So it has a booklet too, if I recall. That's the group right there. And so it shows you the instruments used per song, some of the liner notes. Yeah, it's just a very excited to check this one out. It should be quite an interesting listen. Let me kind of go through here. So the Black Earth Percussion Group. This came out on the Opus 1. So, then lastly from Slolo, I picked up Elliott Sharp Fractal. I've always loved this cover. This is on Dossier. Came out in '86 or '7. This is basically jazz, rock, avant-garde, some electronic. Never owned this on vinyl, so excited to check this out. Dossier. Yeah, all three were very fairly priced, especially when you combine them. They gave me a good deal. So, and none of these records I'm showing today were expensive in any sense of the word. Unlike Steve's pickups, they were quite a bit more. And I didn't go in with a list. I rarely do, really. I kind of go by feel and what I know and recognize, which has its pros and cons, I guess. Whereas Steve did come in with a list. Did he stick to it? You're gonna have to check out his video, which I'm sure I'll post sometime this week. So next vendor, I don't remember the name of the vendor, but they had this compilation album from Nurse with Wound, Automating Volume 1. This was really good price, so I picked it up. I didn't have this one yet. Came in with an insert as well. That's some previous releases. This came out in 86, 87. Yeah, always nice to add originals from Nurse of Wound to the collection. One thing that kind of bothered me was this right here. It says plays fine. So I had to ask him, what the hell does play fine mean? And he was like, well, I don't really use conventional grading, which can go either way. But he said what he means with plays fine is that there's no surface noise, you won't hear any distractions while playing the record, excuse me. So I haven't spun any of these yet, so we'll see. I mean, the music kind of lends to that it's fine if there's a little bit of surface noise anyway. So next vendor, I think it was another seller from New Mexico that sells records. I think he said he's part of an antique store thing where he sells some records in there as well. So this is the original US pressing of Steve Reich Tehillim from '82 on ECM. Always good to add some Steve Reich to the collection as well. Came with an ECM insert as well as an insert speaking about the record. Steve Reich, as many of you know, usually puts on pretty big ensembles, and I'm not going to read all of them. Feel free to pause the video. There you go. So yeah, it's voice, sax, oboe, clarinet, percussion. Should be a good listen as well. The next vendor, this is one of the vendors that was selling our private collection, and he had about 10-15 boxes of really good stuff. Like he had all of the Impulse Coltrane stuff there. He had a lot of Ornette Coleman. He had Indian navigation stuff. So when I asked him, like, are you a private seller or do you have a store? No, this is for my collection. The stuff that I don't think I need anymore. So I was like, God damn, I'd love to see your actual collection then. So the stuff that I picked up from him was the Hafler Trio. What's this one called? An Utterance of the Supreme Ventriloquist. Interesting packaging here. This came out in the 96, 97, numbered. This is, you know, experimental electronic, a little bit of jazz. Clear green. So I check this one out too, see how it sounds. And he also got from him Arthur Blythe Illusions. Don't know this actual record, but the lineup, you know, has Fred Hopkins, Steve McCall on drums, John Hicks on piano, James Bud Ulmer on guitar, and Abdul Wadud on cello, Bobby Battle on drums, and Bob Stewart on tuba. So I like the lineup, but this came out in the early 80s or 80s, yeah, 1980 actually. So this could go either way, I suppose. So I sampled some. It's a little, the production I'm not quite sure about, but I have to listen to the whole thing to see how much I like it. But yeah, I mean, both of these were very, 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 very well priced. Then I picked up another Nerves with Wound. This is on the third floor, an EP, Couleur Ta Moon EP. The guy actually was pretty cool. He put a QR code on every sleeve that shows, it goes directly to the Discogs link of the record, not just the main page of the record, but the actual pressing. And now in this case, there's only one pressing, I believe, maybe a test pressing in Discogs as well. So yeah, this is just 2 songs, one on each side. I think it's a 45. But good, priced really well. He had a whole story about how Kurt Cobain was influenced by this, and the In Utero cover is the same model that's used on here, which, you know, cool. Then lastly, actually before I go to the last, my last 2 records that I picked up, we also ran into Tim of University of Vinyl, yeah, of Vinyl. And he was nice enough to give Steve and I a little sticker. We only spoke briefly. He had to move on. He was in a time crunch. But yeah, it was good to meet him. So the community here in Denver is, in Colorado rather, because he's from northern Colorado, is slowly growing. So yeah. So the last seller was Wax Trax, which is a pretty popular store in Denver. Has been here since 1975. They recently opened an offshoot store in a different part of Denver, which is where Steve and I went. We went there a few weeks back, maybe months back already. But so this was from the main store. They had a lot of heat, and the collector, they have the bins, the punk, rock, whatever. Then they had the collector bins, which they had cheap heat, but also some not so cheap heat, and I'm sure Steve will talk to you about that more. But I picked up 2 records there. There were some others that I was interested in, but they were just way above what I wanted to spend on them. So I got a band that I've recently gotten into in the last few years, Anacrit, which is an electronic noise band from the US. And what's cool about this, I suppose, is this is pressing of 100. This is 1 out of 100. So I got the first numbered. Right? So Anacrit is electronic noise experimental. This is a very heavy, thick cover. What you call it? A gatefold. Nice art. Looks like this, feels like this is hand painted, but I can't be certain. Yeah, happy to, this is my 3rd or 4th record of theirs. I might do a live stream down the line to play some of these. Banishment Rituals of the Disenlightened. It's come out in 2008 on Beta Lactam Ring Records. So yeah, Anacrit. And then lastly, I picked up a Roscoe Mitchell. This is, I don't know actually what this is, but Roscoe Mitchell, when you see it in the wild and it's a good price, you know, you pick it up. I think this is a French label, Goody. Yeah, Roscoe Mitchell Volume 4. I think this is just three Roscoe Mitchell compositions. Ornette, little sweet and sound. Great lineup on here too. Lester Bowie on trumpet, flugelhorn, harmonica. Lester Lashley on trombone and cello. Roscoe Mitchell on alto, clarinet, recorder, etc. Malachi Favors on bass, Maurice McIntyre on tenor sax, and Alvin Fielder on drums. Excited to check this one out too. And then before we left the venue, we passed by Paramount Pressing and Plating, which is the record plant that was infamously associated with VMP for the last few years, but is now separated. So we met with Gary Salstrom, who's the plant manager, and I believe the gentleman with him is not on this card. I don't recall his name. I apologize. But Steve and I were invited to go over there for a tour sometime soon, hopefully. So yeah, that should be really interesting. And then after the show, we went to get some tacos. You know, just to kind of hang out, talk about life, talk about music, records, as always. And we got interrupted by Dave. Dave texted both of us, wanting an update of the show, which was fun. So yeah, that was my weekend. As always, thanks for watching. Looking forward to interacting with you in the comments, and hope everyone's well, and see you soon. Bye.